Welcome to the Kentucky Public Library Trustee Certification Program, sponsored by the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives and the Kentucky Public Library Association. Today we will be discussing the fiscal responsibilities of the Library Board. This program is for educational purposes only. If the Library Board needs legal advice, an attorney should be consulted. After viewing this presentation, trustees will understand the fiscal role of the Library Board, the financial documents that must be maintained and filed by the library, the responsibilities of the Library Board Treasurer, and how libraries' investments must be handled. According to Kentucky state law, a public agency is every county and city governing body, council, school district board, special district board, and municipal corporation, and any entity which derives at least 25% of the funds expended by it in the Commonwealth of Kentucky from state or local authority funds. Therefore, under the laws of the Commonwealth, every public library in the state is a public agency. As the administrative authority governing a public entity, the Library Board has both general and specific duties regarding the finances of the library. Every public library in Kentucky is a public agency. True or false? The answer is true. As the legally appointed authority for overseeing the libraries, trustees have the ultimate responsibility for the library's finances. The Library Board is responsible to the taxpayers for the way library funds are accounted for and expended. Who has the ultimate responsibility for the library's finances? Taxpayers, library director, library trustees, or fiscal court? The correct answer is C, library trustees. In 2012, State Auditor Adam Edelin conducted a study of special districts in Kentucky. His findings identified public library districts as examples for other districts and highlighted work by the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives and the Kentucky Public Library Association for best practices in oversight, transparency, and accountability. The Trustee Certification Program received special mention in the auditor's report. In all aspects, the watchword of the board should be transparency. Everything the board does and all board records will always be subject to public inspection and publication. What financial records are open for inspection? The answer is all. All public records shall be open for inspection by a resident of the Commonwealth except as otherwise provided by KRS, and suitable facilities will be made available for the exercise of this right. The official custodian may require a written application signed by the applicant and with his or her name printed legibly on the application describing the records to be inspected. The official custodian may require the applicant to provide a statement in the written application of the manner in which the applicant is a resident of the Commonwealth. Resident of the Commonwealth is defined in KRS and includes individuals residing in the Commonwealth, domestic business entities with a location in the Commonwealth, foreign business entities registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, individuals that are employed and are working at a location in the Commonwealth, individuals or business entities that own real property within the Commonwealth, and any individual or business entity representing one of these residents. News-gathering organizations, which are specifically defined in KRS, may also request to inspect public records under the Act. Requesters may use the Request to Inspect Public Records form provided by the Office of the Attorney General but are not required to do so. Public records can be inspected during regular business hours of the public agency, or copies can be mailed. Of course, the request can be denied. However, convincing evidence of unreasonable burden or disruption to the essential duties of the public agency will have to be documented. Please read the open records law very carefully. All public records shall be open for inspection by a resident of the Commonwealth. True or false? The answer is true. Public libraries are responsible for maintaining key financial documents. These are just a few of the examples the library board will assist the director with completing. These financial documents should be readily accessible by any resident of the Commonwealth as required by the Open Records Law. Pursuant to KRS, all special purpose governmental entities, as defined by KRS, are required to annually adopt a budget conforming with the requirements established under KRS prior to the start of the fiscal year to which the budget applies. Also, all special purpose governmental entities must file other information as required with the Department for Local Government, or DLG. A filing calendar with deadlines is available on the DLG website. The required filings will be covered in detail throughout this course. The Kentucky Constitution states that the budget must be based on a fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th. Libraries must also adopt a balanced budget. The library may not expend any funds not listed on the budget. In accordance with KRS, no monies shall be expelled from any funds or any sources except as provided in the adopted budget. The budget can be amended at any time during the fiscal year. You cannot retroactively amend your budget after the fiscal year is over. As well as being made available for public inspection, the budget must be filed electronically on the form supplied by DLG. The library's budget does not have to be balanced. True or false? The answer is false. KRS requires that all SPGEs register annually with the Department for Local Government and pay an annual registration fee. The registration form collects basic information about the SPGE, including a detailed listing of board members, date, time, and location of board meetings, the KRS statute under which the SPGE was formed, and physical location and operational boundaries. Kentucky law requires that all SPGEs register with the Department for Local Government. How often? The correct answer is C, annually. The registration form also collects a listing of all the most significant taxes or fees imposed and collected by the SPGE, including the rates or amounts charged for the reporting period and the statutory or other source of authority for the levy of the tax or fee. As used in this subdivision, most significant taxes or fees means the 5 taxes or fees levied by the entity that produce the most tax and fee revenue. If the top 5 revenue-producing taxes and fees do not produce at least 85% of all tax and fee revenues received by the entity, then additional taxes and fees will be listed until that 85% is reached. SPGEs do not have to submit a listing of any taxes or fees to the Department for Local Government. True or false? The answer is false. Other information collected on the registration form is the entity's point of contact, the adopted code of ethics, and a list of entities that have oversight over the SPG. Also, in accordance with KRS, the submission will include at minimum the following financial information: the most recent adopted budget of the entity, after the close of each fiscal year, a comparison of the budget to actual revenues and expenditures for each fiscal year, completed audits or attestation engagements as provided in KRS, and other financial oversight reports or information required by the DLG. The Department for Local Government will notify special purpose governmental entities 30 days after the due date in writing that either the required information was not submitted in a timely manner or the information submitted was non-compliant and the reason for non-compliance. A number of libraries in the past have not turned their audits in on time. KDLA staff will be sending reminders on when items are due. If the reason for non-compliance is missing a due date, the library will have 30 days after receiving notice from DLG to submit the information. If the library failed to submit compliant information, then any funds due them and in the possession of any agency, entity, or branch of state government can be withheld by the state government entity until the report or information is submitted. This is your tax funds and any other revenue you may receive. A notice of non-compliance will be published in a newspaper having general circulation in the area where the special purpose governmental entity operates. The information in the published notice will be the name of the library and its board members, a statement that the library failed to comply with the reporting requirements, the name and contact information of the individual provided as the contact for the library, and any other information the DLG may require. Failure of compliance may also result in the Auditor of Public Accounts performing an audit or special examination of the library at the library's expense. Once this audit is in process, it cannot be stopped. Because this information is public knowledge, any resident or property owner in the library service area can file suit in the circuit court to have the provisions of KRS enforced. Attorney's fees and court costs could have to be paid by the library if that is what the circuit court decides. If a SPG does not file required information with the Department for Local Government, which of the following may occur? The correct answer is E. Any of these may occur if the SPG does not file the required information. Pursuant to KRS, all special purpose governmental entities as defined by KRS are required to contract for any attestation engagement or an audit at a frequency determined by the amount received or expended. Every entity is also required to file a financial statement every year. This will be covered in detail in the slides that follow. Every special purpose governmental entity that receives or expels from all sources less than $100,000 will annually prepare a financial statement. Once every 4 years, the library will contract for the application of an attestation engagement as determined by the DLG. An assertion engagement is where an auditor looks at your books but does not perform a full audit. They are making sure that everything seems reasonable and legal. Every special purpose governmental entity that receives or expends from all sources between $100,000 and $499,999 will annually prepare a financial statement. Once every 4 years, the library will contract for an audit. Every special purpose governmental entity that receives or expends from all sources $500,000 or more will annually prepare a financial statement and contract for an audit. Every library must contract for an audit every year. True or false? The answer is false. According to KRS, the library will employ an independent certified public accountant or contract with the auditor of public accountants to perform an audit or assertion engagement for the funds of the library budget. This work should be completed no later than 12 months following the close of the fiscal year, subject to the audit or assertion engagement. Remember, this could be every year or every 4 years. The audit or assertion should conform to generally accepted governmental auditing standards as issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, promulgated by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and additional procedures and reporting requirements that may be required by the Auditor of Public Accountants. In accordance with KRS, each special purpose governmental entity shall, within 60 days after the close of each fiscal year, publish the location where the adopted budget, financial statements, and most recent audit or assertion engagement reports may be examined by the public. The specific publishing instructions can be found in KRS. In addition to being published in a newspaper qualified under KRS, copies should be provided to each local newspaper of general circulation, each news service, and each local radio and television station which has written requests on file with the library. The audit or assertion engagement for the special purpose governmental entity must be submitted for publication to the online registry in the form and format required by the DLG. After the close of the fiscal year, special purpose governmental entities, which are also taxing districts, are required to complete a uniform financial information report. Libraries may complete the form themselves or request that UFIR be completed by the certified public accountant or auditor who performs their annual audit. Libraries are required to file the UFIR with the Department for Local Government by May 1st every year. The information from this form is used for analysis of the state's overall credit rating, for a database of comparable financial data from all counties, cities, and special taxing districts, for fiscal impact statements on proposed legislation, and for data collection obligations of the United States Bureau of the Census. Each year in August, every Kentucky Public Library is required to complete an annual report. They must submit the report to KDLA and provide a copy to the fiscal court in any county wherein the library has services. Failure to submit this information may exclude the library from available grants and other programs administered by KDLA. Most of the information on the annual report is required by the federal government. Some of the information is used to produce the State Statistical Report, which provides a comparison report of the libraries in the Commonwealth. The authorization page is also the application for state support, which may be reinstated at some point. This application is for the next available funding cycle of state aid. These funds provided by the Commonwealth may be used for local library needs and services. The deadline for filing the annual report is August 27th each year. Grants and programs administered by KDLA may be withheld if a library does not submit an annual report. True or false? The answer is true. Treasurer responsibilities. In general, the treasurer of the library board has custody of all money, securities, and obligations belonging to that district, and will disperse money only for the uses and purposes of the library and in the manner prescribed by the bylaws on itemized vouchers allowed by the board. It is encouraged that the bylaws state that vouchers should be signed by the secretary and countersigned by the president. The treasurer is responsible for the keeping of a full and accurate account of all receipts and payments as directed by the bylaws or as the board prescribes. He or she will render statements of library accounts whenever required by the board. The treasurer is responsible for having all accounts and records for the fiscal year balanced and closed. This must be presented to the board within 90 days following the close of that fiscal year. This library board officer should be bonded in an amount determined by the board. The treasurer of the library board should be bonded. True or false? The answer is true. All funds the library receives from any source are considered public funds as soon as the library takes possession. The treasurer must oversee the investment of donations, interests, requests, etc. under the guidelines that cover the investment of tax revenue. The treasurer of a library oversees all investment transactions. The library board should adopt a written investment policy that will govern how the funds are invested. The earnings of any investments will be reported in the financial documents filed by the library. Funds may only be invested in areas specifically allowed in KRS. Some examples of permissible investments are certificates of deposit, bonds, mutual funds, and securities issued by a state or local government. The treasurer of the library board oversees all investment transactions. True or false? The answer is true. Thank you for attending the fiscal responsibility component of the Kentucky Public Library Trustee Certification Program. There are a total of 5 prescribed training programs that are required to receive your initial certification. You must also complete the following 4 prescribed training programs: strategic planning and library advocacy, conducting a library board meeting, governance of Kentucky Public Libraries, and trustee and director roles. After the 5 prescribed training programs have been completed, please mail your application for certification to the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. A Kentucky Public Library Trustee Certificate will be issued to you. The certificate will be valid for 4 years. You can mail applications to Continuing Education Consultant, Trustee Certification, Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives, 300 Coffee Tree Road, P.O. Box 537, Frankfort, Kentucky 40602-0537. Thank you and good luck.